This is the Puck Junk Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. I'm Sal Berry, and with me is Tim Parrish and Clemente Lisi. And today we're going to talk about the 2023-24 Upper Deck Credentials hockey card set. We're also going to talk about our favorite young guns from the past years because, as Clemente pointed out, this is now show number 201. 201 has kind of become an iconic number for hockey card collectors because usually that meant who is the first young gun in Upper Deck Series 1. It's always card number 201, or at least it has been for the past however many decades now, 2+ decades. And we're going to talk about a couple of other odds and ends in the world of hockey and hockey collecting. So, gentlemen, how are you? Clemente, I'll start with you this time. So, how you been?
I've been good. I'm coming off a weekend. I celebrated my wife and I our 18th wedding anniversary. So yes, that deserves an applause. That deserves an applause. Yes,
it does.
Yeah. So
that is great news, my friend. Yeah. 18 years. That is something. Yeah, especially. I mean, take it as a compliment from a guy who's never been married. So that is. And Tim, how are you?
I've also been married for 18 years. I mean, twice if you add them up. Been married 18 years, I think, total.
But, okay. So you're adding 2 marriages together.
Oh, you weren't talking about that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm better on the inside than I am on the outside, but just trying to roll with the punches, you know?
Yeah. Well, your football team is doing really good. I know you're a hockey fan and a football fan, and obviously it makes the time easier to pass when the football team that you like is winning. Every year I try to be a football fan. I always buy into the Bears hype, and I'm like, all right, this is going to be a good year. I'm just going to give them a chance, right? And they won the first game. They lost the next 2 games. Look pathetic, and I'm like, is it hockey season yet? Is it hockey season? Oh, we got a preseason game coming up this week. Okay, cool. I can stop pretending to try to get into football. But yeah, you're going to have a couple of options. You're going to have the Steelers and the Penguins.
Yeah, well, I've been a Steeler fan my whole life and Penguin fan most of my whole life, and I can tell you that no amount of win streaks at all give me any type of comfort and make me sleep any better. Because, as they say, on any given Sunday, anything can happen. So I'm happy with the 3-0 start because, honestly, before the season started, you know, my kids are always like, what do you think the record's going to be? I'm like, if they win 4 games, I'd be shocked. Just considering looking at how the team was made up and the trauma that was the quarterback room. So, But I will say this, Justin Fields, I still haven't flipped on him. He hasn't made any mistakes yet, so I'm still on board.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would even watch the Bears when they were losing because Justin Fields was exciting to watch. Like, I'd say, yeah, I know they're going to lose, but at least he's exciting. You know, like the same with hockey, right? Like, I mean, on those days that the Penguins back in the day were not a great team, Mario Lemieux was always exciting to watch, right? The Red Wings, when the Red Wings were the Dead Wings, and they were not so great until they, got their act together in the mid-90s. Yzerman was still, just a great player to watch. Look at the Nordiques. I know I'm going back 30, 40 years, but even in the, when the Penguins were terrible and they drafted Sidney Crosby and they were still terrible, but he was good. The Capitals, right? They were not a great team. They drafted Ovechkin, and he was the bright spot on an otherwise grim team for those first few years, So it's always great when a team that you like has that bright spot that you can kind
reminds
of
me of the current Blackhawks.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I mean, it was kind of that in 07-08 with Kane and Taves. We had 2 really good rookies come into the league, and it was just oh, okay, we're going to turn a corner here,
But
Of course,
but a few years, 2-3 years, then things get a lot better. So
within
yeah,
3 years. Also, at the end of their entry level contracts, so 7, 8, 9, 9. Yeah, at the end of their ELCs, Kane and Taves won Stanley Cups. So
right.
you're right. It did turn around pretty quickly. Um, so uh, it's been announced by Jaromir Jagr that this is going to be his last year of professional hockey, that he's going to retire after this season. He's currently playing for his team in the Czech Republic, his team that he owns. From what I understand, he plays home games, and that's to help sell tickets. So I don't it's interesting. I'm wondering why he's retiring. I mean, he owns the team. He could play till he's 100. And if people pay for the tickets, that's good too, right? But I also understand it like takes a toll on your body and stuff like this. But I mean, Gordie Howe played until he was 52 and Jager's 52. Thoughts, gentlemen? Tim, we'll start with you since you watched Jager very closely in Pittsburgh.
I mean, we've talked before about whether or not players going into the Hall of Fame should just be automatically put in if they're locks anyway, and you just skip the wait period. He's probably one of them. I mean, he won't. They'll wait. But as soon as he's eligible, he's going in the Hall of Fame, first of all.
Right.
Second of all, I would love, and I don't think this is going to happen, but I'd love to see him come back to the North American market and become some type of coach / player executive / team assistant type thing. And if it was with the Penguins, that would be amazing. But that's more of a nostalgia type thing, and rather than something logical for him. But this has been a long time coming. I mean, how many years have we talked about, hey, when's Jagr going to retire? I mean, it's basically been going on probably since the lockout. Nobody thought he was even going to ever come back, for that matter. And then he went on his whirlwind tour of every team in the league practically. So, yeah, I mean, what more can you say about it? I mean, really, about his career? He's an all-time great. I mean, just goal-scoring prowess and skating ability and just stick handling and everything. The guy had it all. And he could probably still outskate, I would say, 20% of the league at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Clemente?
Yeah, I want to quote you, Sal. You said in our chat when this came up, you said, "I'll believe it when I see it," and so I do agree with that. We'll see what happens at the end of the season in his native Czech Republic. But otherwise, I agree. I think he's an automatic Hall of Famer. And I also think he's going to end up, if he truly retires, I think he'll do a lot of shows. I think he sees the money that can be made from doing autographs and appearances. And I think he's already done some of that. He's been at the Expo and the National. I think if he does truly retire, we may see him stateside more because of shows. And as a result of that, he may end up becoming an ambassador for the Penguins or basically any team he ever played for, because he did play for a bunch of teams, including the Rangers. So we'll see. But I do think we'll be seeing more of him at this side of the Atlantic for sure.
He could easily be employed by the NHL as like what you just said, like a league ambassador, something like that. Some kind of liaison between the NHL and international type play, maybe.
Especially with the Olympics coming up and the NHL wanting to do more international stuff again. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good call.
Yeah, I mean, he was an exciting player to watch, and it will be interesting if he does finally retire. Like, what would he do next, right? Because he's such a name, he's so popular. He did play for a bunch of teams, and when you play for a long time and you're a superstar, you transcend, right? Like, even if Gretzky didn't play for your team, if Gretzky was signing autographs, you'd want to go. You know what I mean? Or if he was talking, you'd listen. Or if he was doing something, you'd want to check it out, right? So he's definitely that kind of player. So that should be interesting to see what's next for him. But another thing I want to bring up are the Fanatics jerseys, because they're doing NHL jerseys this year for the players, if that's correct. Now, I know in the past Fanatics was making jerseys, but now how is this different this time?
Not only are they the apparel, so like if you have to to buy one from that, they're going to be supplying the actual team game used jerseys. So,
right. And that's what's new, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's new. And then they also announced their 4 quote unquote retail categories for their first season as the full on outfitter of NHL jerseys. So they have the Authentic Pro, the Premium, the Breakaway, and the Practice. Those are all the levels of availabilities on the jerseys that you can get through them. And the price range, I sent this to you guys a couple days ago. They released the price range on these. $120 for and this is US, $120 for the practice jerseys, up to $425 for the Authentic Pros. Like $135 for the breakaways. And those are blank ones, no names. $175 for ones with player names on them. $180 for blank premiums and $230 for name. These are steep prices. I mean, they really are, especially if you're going with the full-on authentic at $425. Those would be the game jerseys, essentially. The exact same ones, supposedly, to spec that the players would wear.
Okay, so my opinion, I just got to interject this really quick. I don't understand anybody who needs an Authentic Pro jersey. Like, I can understand wanting to have, like, the real deal, but it's like, why? I get, like, if you collect jerseys and stuff, but if you're wearing the jersey, it just seems ridiculous. Because, first of all, you don't need the fight strap. Okay, second of all, you don't need to withstand a slash from a skate blade. And so, like, these super heavyweight Authentic Pro jerseys with all the bells and whistles and stuff, it just seems ridiculous when somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I bought my teenager an authentic jersey," and it's like, they don't need that. And that's why I like the premium, or I don't know if I like this breakaway jersey. Like, my thing is I always liked what back in the day when CCM made the semi-pro jerseys that were like half the weight, but they still had the embroidered crests and the embroidered shoulder patches. And that's kind of like where I'm at. Like, I don't need it to be like the full weight. And if somebody wants to spend their money on it, that's fine. I mean,
And it is, but let me interject to your interjecting.
Please interject to my interjection.
If you look at how the jerseys have been made in the past by other companies like Adidas and Reebok and Nike in hockey and other sports, there's a big difference between what Fanatics is calling their breakaway version and an authentic or a premium version. Mm-hmm. Because, you're talking about the stitching and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's the Authentic Pro. Those are the ones that are stitched. Those breakaway ones, everything's heat pressed. So the crests and all that, they're all heat pressed. Why are they doing that? Because they're trying to make one that's more like a shirt and it's more tailored fit. So it's going to be, it's not going to be the big bulky one that's designed to have pads and everything underneath where it looks like your sleeves are 4 sizes too long. But here's my thing. If you're going to pay $450 for an authentic jersey, essentially one that, here's Sidney Crosby, I'm handing him his jersey. Here's Tim, I'm handing him his jersey. Like, if I'm going to spend $450 on that, I'm going to go aftermarket and try to find an actual game worn one.
Right.
To pay $450, because I'll pay if I'm going to pay $450 for a similar one, why not pay $600 for an actual game worn one? With any luck, you might get it autographed. And heck, at the end of the year, when all the teams have their clearinghouses, if you're in the market area of your favorite team or something, they always have those auctions for charity at the end and sell off tons and tons of equipment and jerseys and everything else. You can get them fairly cheap. So my concern is quality. As we've already seen, when Fanatics took over with MLB and the jerseys came out and they were, as soon as they got drenched with sweat, you could see through them. Like, you could see players' nipples poking through their jerseys. You could see their underwear through their pants. They blamed Nike on the manufacturing defects, so to speak. And because Fanatics is such a juggernaut, nobody would speak out against them that had any skin in the game. So MLB like defended their thing with Fanatics and was just like, oh yeah, we stand by their quality and blah blah blah. And since they blame Nike, well, they could pass the buck. If they do the same thing with whatever partner that they're making with the NHL, that's why I'm hoping that this doesn't go south quickly. I mean, the shoddy material and all of that kind of stuff and cutting corners on craftsmanship and everything else is the last thing you want on a hockey jersey. It's one thing if you're just standing out in a field for half a game or getting 2 or 3 at bats wearing the jersey. It's another thing if you're out there on the ice sweating your you know what off for 20, 25 minutes a game, ramming into people and getting hit and slashed and your jersey pulled on and yanked on and everything else. We're going to find out real quick whether or not these come apart. Let's put it that way.
Well, I will say this about the jerseys. I've seen them up close, both at Fanatics Fest in New York and then also at the Rookie Showcase where the guys actually skated around in them. So they did do some sweating in them, not as much as a game. And then there was some preseason games the last few days. So I think they're much better made than the baseball ones. Maybe they learned from that mistake, or maybe there was a different issue. The price point doesn't shock me because I feel like all sports jerseys across all sports, basketball, soccer, everything else, the price just keeps going up and up. And the demand keeps going up as well. It's not like they're not making any money. And, the cost to make these jerseys is a fraction. I mean, they're making a lot of money. I'm assuming they're making these in China where it probably costs $12 to make the jersey and they're charging you 400, So you have to take that into consideration that the markup here is huge. And I agree. Like, wait until the end of the season for clearance or maybe get a game worn one, or there's so many, especially if you're getting something autographed and you're going to hang it up in your room or you're going to frame it. Is very different than, but we've all been to games where people wear jerseys. Now they're not wearing maybe the authentic ones. Maybe they're wearing, the middle grade ones or whatever they are. But people want to wear them because they want to be part of the team. And the fact that they put this price point out there makes me think it's been somehow beta tested. They know people are going to spend money. Look, we'll know pretty soon if Fanatics starts slashing the price within the first month and declares a big sale or something, then we know that they can't sell them for 450 or 425. Maybe they can sell them for 300. So we'll see. Right now is the start of the season, so the excitement is going to start, and then you have Christmas. But after that, it could fall off a cliff and where they have to lower the price. So we'll see.
I'm more concerned about the price of the premium. Well, first of all, the practice jerseys are how much? 120?
Right.
Criminal.
The
Criminal.
practice jerseys? Yeah.
Yeah.
120. Yeah, 120 is where they start.
Criminal, because it's a blank jersey with a solid color. Maybe it's got a little bit of different color on the shoulders and the neck, at least on the picture that I'm looking at. But like practice jerseys, they generally have a round logo. And I remember in like the mid 90s when like teams started selling their practice jerseys in like stores, and I remember getting a Blackhawk practice jersey and thinking it was cool because it was just something different. Like it was just something basic. And I thought, all right, that's kind of neat. That's kind of fun to skate around and like play pickup hockey and, because it's just like a practice jersey or whatever. But like $100 for a practice jersey that just is basically like any other jersey that you can find in a pro shop. But the only difference is that it has a different version of the team's logo on the front. I go and I buy a men's league hockey jersey at like my pro shop, $30, maybe $50 for something that's kind of like that middle weight or less. I mean, you can get a jersey as cheap as like $10, right? Well, I guess it depends on the jersey. $10-$20 depending on the weight of it, the mesh of it, whatever. But like that, and then like the premium jerseys, like I go to like Dick's Sporting Goods. I don't know if you guys have those in your neck of the woods, but here we got this. Yeah, it used to be Sports Authority, and then they got bought out. And like I'd look at it, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of a nice Patrick Kane jersey or Jonathan Taves jersey or Duncan Keith jersey. And I'd look at it and I'd go, oh, it's got the name and the numbers. And then first I'd look at the price and it'd be like $200 something. And then I would look and I realized that everything was heat pressed. And I go, oh, wow. And it's heat pressed. Like if it's all just heat pressed, name, number, logo, stuff like that, 100-ish bucks, 150 maybe. But like when you're paying a lot of money and it's just heat pressed and not even stitched, ridiculous.
Yeah,
So
the premium and the breakaway aren't stitched; they're heat pressed. But the practice jersey, that's screen printed, so that's not
that
even
shouldn't
heat
even
pressed.
be $50.
Yeah,
$50.
And
It's a t-shirt with long sleeves.
Well, Sal,
and Clemente, you brought up
Yeah.
these being manufactured in overseas and stuff. They actually did announce that they partnered with SP Apparel,
okay.
the same company. I think they're out of Quebec. They've been making the NHL jerseys for like, I don't know.
So
20
they're
to 30
really
years
so
or
they're
something.
making them in North America, which
Yeah, just like the MLB ones, Nike technically makes them,
right.
but Fanatics is the outfitter. So
Yeah, slash distributor slash whatever.
yeah, so they act as the the go between thing. So SP Apparel is technically going to make the jersey. So my hope is that they don't change anything really,
right.
formula wise.
Yeah. I
because
want to
that
pick
would
up.
just
Yeah, I
suck.
want to pick up what Sal said about the practice jersey should be $50. The truth is, a T-shirt at the Fanatics website is $50. A
Yeah, that
T-shirt.
is true.
So that's the thing. Like everything has to be pushed up because everything's so expensive. But like I said, we'll see if there's a drop off in price after the holidays. Then and the season's already fairly new at that point. Still, it tells me they're not selling. We'll know pretty quickly if they're not selling. But look, I think they will sell because people they have money. The holidays are coming. They love the sport. They want to show their team colors, and they're going to spend the money. I mean, there's no shortage of people I see at games with really, really nice jerseys, and they spent a fortune on them for sure.
It's true. I probably have 5 hockey jerseys. I rarely, if ever, wear them anymore. They're wall hangers, as I call them,
Right.
in my office now.
I used to wear jerseys. Obviously, I wear them when I go to games, but when I would go to card shows, I'd wear them. But now I wear a puck junk T-shirt, so I don't really wear jerseys to sport card shows anymore. But that was time for me to when I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna wear this fun IHL jersey from the '90s because it's ridiculous, or I'm gonna wear my Penguins jersey because I can. You know what I mean? Like, although I've worn a Penguins jersey to a Hawks game when they were playing the Penguins, which didn't go over well with the other Hawk fans, but I had a really good reason for that. And the reason was it was Mario Lemieux's first game back in Chicago since coming out of retirement. So somebody looked at me and said, how could you wear that jersey? And I pointed to the ice. I said, because I'm here for him. And the Blackhawk fan nodded in agreement and said, yeah, he's better than everybody on our team put together. And this was 2001, so that was true.
I was going to say, so that was 100% true.
That was 100% true, right? Better than the Blackhawks starting 5. And I think we had Zamenhof still. So, there you go. But I don't wear jerseys that much anymore. So even when I see a cheap one and I go, oh, that looks nice. Am I going to wear it? I don't know. And then I have a closet full of jerseys that I just don't wear. And I'm just like, do you really need another jersey? I don't need another jersey.
I saw a post on, I think it was X the other day. It has nothing to do with hockey jerseys, but it's jerseys. The Tennessee Titans, I guess, dumped off all of what was still in their inventory in their locker rooms of practice jerseys, game jerseys, like everything they had, dumped it all off on a Goodwill. And so they were funneling it throughout various Goodwill stores in Nashville, and people were posting pictures of these racks that were front to back of store of Tennessee Titans jerseys. But the vast majority of them were players that even Tennessee fans were like, who? Mm-hmm. Because they were all guys that were from practice squad or whatever.
Right.
And most of them were the game cut ones where the sleeves are up here because they're cut to wrap underneath the shoulder pads.
Mm-hmm.
So it's who's going to buy that? Of a player that's just some random, and one that's not going to fit right when you put it on. Right. And they were still charging $80 for them at a Goodwill.
You know what's interesting about that? It makes me wonder what happened to all the Arizona Coyotes stuff. They must have just dumped it somewhere, or maybe they gave it to Goodwill. Sometimes what happens is when, as everyone knows, I think that when a team wins a Super Bowl, they print both teams winners, and then they end up donating the team that lost to an African country. So somewhere in Africa, someone's wearing 5-time Super Bowl champion Buffalo Bills t-shirts, or they're wearing Coyotes merchandise potentially. Who knows? But
Well, the
but
Coyotes kept their IP for Coyotes, so it's not like the Utah team got all the old
no,
Coyotes jerseys and stuff like that.
right.
That they're
I
The
assume
owner
considered.
not.
kept it, but he gave up his claim for the franchise.
Okay, well
So
then I don't know, and I'm not really losing sleep over it either. Let's talk about this Rogers buyout. Let's not make an hour of this because I know this is a really deep, meaty topic that could probably be its own show. But Tim, you have some conspiracy theories, so have at it. Get on your soapbox and take off the tinfoil hat. Let's hear the conspiracy theory.
I don't take off the hat. I put on the foil. I was
Okay,
instructed to put on the foil.
putting on the foil, Coach.
Keep it on.
So
Keep it on.
yeah, you have to keep it on. By the way, there was an article that came out. You know, Scott Burnside,
Yeah.
the hockey writer, he put out an article about the potential expansion to Atlanta. It's a really good article. And if you haven't read it, you should read it. It's good. And it kind of lays out the whole process. And this kind of like sort of plays into it because look, business stuff is kind of, when it comes to hockey, is above my pay grade. But we all know that the center of hockey universe is Toronto when it comes to media and everything else. And the Maple Leafs drive revenue in this league. It's the most lucrative TV contract, the merchandise sales, all of that kind of stuff. Anybody that has access to anything licensing for the Leafs, you basically are printing your own money because that's just how it is. So Bell Canada Entertainment, they're selling their 37.5% stake in the MLSE organization for $4.7 billion to Rogers. So that's the group that owns the Leafs, the Raptors, the Argonauts, Toronto FC, the Marlies. They're all part of that. Anybody that remembers, like, I think it was 12 years ago when BCE got involved with the ownership group, people didn't think that was going to work out because Rogers already was involved. They bought their share from the teachers' pension fund for like dirt cheap. They got away with one there, but having them announce that, everybody wondered, is this going to work out? How can you have this? Because think of it in terms of this. If you don't understand that these are the two biggest entities in sports media in Canada, this would be like if CNN and Fox decided to be partners in the US. That's pretty much what's going on here. So, they had a 50-50 split on 75% of MLSE, and the other 25 was owned by Larry Tannenbaum. So Tannenbaum's turning 80 years old, and his contract that he had said that once he turned 80, he had to sell his portion. So there's no reason to think that Rogers isn't going to buy that too and then own 100% and basically be completely covered. But, he's still on the board of governors for the NBA. Tannenbaum is. So that's why he's part of the Raptors group. But anyway, like I said, you didn't want this to drag on. Here's the conspiracy part about this. So all the rumors about expansion, we've been talking about this. We've talked about it on the show numerous times. The league's going to expand. Where are they going to expand? We had one team move and go to Utah. Are they going to put a team back in Phoenix? That idea got blown up. Could it happen again? Maybe. They've been talking about you got multiple groups with lots of money vying to get a team back in Atlanta for the third time. So there's that going on. So there's all these rumors about expansion. And the problem arises when you're expanding, when there's a team within the vicinity already. And that's always been an issue. But now you have an ownership group taking over that had aspirations of owning a hockey team previously, but now is going to have a hockey team. So there's no reason to think that they couldn't vie for another one because there's always been talk about having a second team in Toronto. We've heard it before. We've heard it for years. Can the Toronto market support another team? And you can't say it's crazy because it happens in New York. It happens in LA. So any of the big markets in North America, they can support multiple teams. There isn't two teams in hockey in Chicago, but there's two baseball teams. So, I mean, depending on where it's at, there's a possibility that it could support. And now you have Rogers, who already owns the Blue Jays, in fact. So now they're going to be a sports juggernaut. So you look at this expansion thing. So what's the issue? When you're expanding, if you go into a market area, you have to pay indemnity fees. They call them indemnification fees. And essentially it's, you're going to come into my market, you have to pay me damages because you're going to be taking some of my lion's share away of viewership and popularity and buying shit and whatever. Sorry, stuff. Is this a kid's show?
No.
Think about it. Back when the Islanders came in the league, they paid $6 million for expansion and then $5 million to the Rangers so they could be in New York. That was back then. Then Anaheim came into the league. They had to pay something like 15, 20 some million to the Kings so that they could locate Anaheim. Now, these indemnification fees, they're set by the team. The teams can make them up. The league doesn't make those up. So whatever team, they can decide what you want. You got to pay me $100 million. You got to pay me $1 billion. Whatever it is, they make it up. So now, theoretically, they could make it whatever they want and essentially make it free because they're in the ownership seat. You know, Keith Pelly's the CEO for Bell, and he was the head guy at Rogers before he left and went over into like Europe or something. So here's the same guy who was CEO of one company, and now he's the CEO of the other
You're
company.
kind of losing me here. And so I just kind of want to get this back on track. You're saying that the owners of the Maple Leafs would want to buy a second NHL team and put it in Toronto. Is that what you're saying?
That they're in cahoots, potentially.
Yeah, I'm saying it's possible that that some organization through the sponsorship of either Bell or Rogers could put in a bid to put another team in Toronto. Look, they tried it at Hamilton, and what happened? Hamilton wanted a team bad. They had everything in place.
Yeah.
And what happened? The Maple Leafs said, nope, not doing it. And so that was dead. But now the team over here, they could open up across the street. It wouldn't make a difference. They're not going to, but they could.
But let me just interject to say, what you're saying is the situation is ripe for that potential to happen. I understand that.
It's certainly a conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
but it could happen.
But the Leafs wouldn't gain from it, and the league wouldn't gain from it because the league, I think.
Oh, the league would gain a lot from it.
Well, no, because the league wants to put teams in the West and the South, so they're more prone to put one back in Phoenix or in Atlanta.
Does the league or does Bettman want that?
Well, Bettman wants that because that's how you grow the sport. You don't grow the sport by having one of your best markets basically splitting the fan base because there's no new fans coming from anywhere. So what I would add to the conspiracy, and not something like a conspiracy, is the league would say, look, you can put a team in Canada, maybe put one in Quebec City again, but we're not going to put two teams in Toronto. It makes zero sense. And because Bell's involved and all these Canadian companies, Rogers, are all television companies. As long as they're in Canada, I think they'd be happy with that. I'm all for more teams in Canada. I'm not a big warm climate hockey market person. So, if it means a team in Hamilton, a team in Quebec City, a team in pick another Canadian city, I'm for that.
Quebec City's not happening. It's just not.
Okay, but two teams in Toronto, to me, doesn't make any sense.
Two teams in New York seems to make sense.
That was different circumstances.
Two things. New York is what, 8 million people?
Right.
Toronto's 3 million people. Chicago's 3 million people. So Chicago and Toronto are comparable in size. So New York is 2.5 times or whatever the size of almost.
And you're not counting Long Island, which is another 2-3 million people. So we're not talking about 10, 11 million people in the metro area if you count North Jersey. So the Devils. So you could 3 teams could fit 15 million people. That makes sense.
Right. And the other thing too is that the reason the Islanders got an expansion was because the NHL was trying to mess with the World Hockey Association. The World Hockey Association had a team called the New York Raiders. The New York Raiders were going to play at the brand new, about to open up Nassau Coliseum in 1972.
And they need tenants, right?
And they were going to be the tenants. The
Right,
New York
right.
Raiders were going to be the tenants. And then the NHL said, "Oh wait, no, we're going to give we're going to start another team there, the Islanders, and they're going to play on Long Island." And then of course, then that arena wanted to work with the NHL team and not the WHA team. So then the Raiders ended up having to rent Madison Square Garden, but they got the dates after the Rangers and after the Knicks and after the concerts. So instead of being the primary tenant at this new arena, they ended up being the tertiary tenant at MSG. So, I mean, really, the Islanders, I mean, I know they were a successful franchise in the 80s, 4 Stanley Cups in a row, blah, blah, blah. But like, they were only really created just to F with the WHA. I mean, when you look at like some of the places that the NHL expanded to, was either because the WHA was expanding there or because they wanted to prevent the WHA from expanding. That's why you had such a rapid growth of the NHL in the 70s, right? So, well, New York has 2 hockey teams, and then with Chicago and its 2 baseball teams, probably the same in New York, you have an AL team and an NL team. Same with you guys, the Mets and the Yankees. Right, got the AL and NL, right? So you had these 2 warring leagues that merged, right? So, I mean, if the Toronto Toros of the WHA made it to 1979, if they lived that long, maybe they would have made the jump to the NHL, although that probably wouldn't have happened, although the Nordiques did, but that was because of a boycott of Molson. But anyways.
But I want to say I agree with one thing with Tim is that the conditions are ripe for something, and also I think the league wants more teams. So I can see why this could be a theory. I mean, it's not totally far-fetched. I just think it would be a mistake. I mean, you have a team that center of the universe, true, but they're very unsuccessful. They haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967.
I knew one of you was going to bring that up.
I'll tell you this: if they put a new team in Toronto, that new team would win the Stanley Cup within 5 years. I guarantee it. But I don't know that the Leafs are such an institution, and the fan base is, like you said, 3 million people in the metro area. I just don't see how you bring in more people. You're just gonna. This reminds me. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me when the Washington Nationals became a baseball team, and it basically sucked into the Baltimore Orioles market. But if you think about it, if you're in Washington, D.C., Baltimore is close, but not that close. And so the Nationals were satisfying a fan base that didn't have a team at all. In Toronto, you're a Leafs fan. Oh, you don't like hockey. There's no in between. So that's my theory. But
well, again, it's a theory.
No, it's interesting.
It may not happen, but I think it's an
interesting.
important thing to look at because, like I said, this is the same thing as, Fox and MSNBC teaming up.
2 behemoths. Yeah.
Yes, they are media conglomerates, but both Bell and Rogers have been heavily involved in sports in Canada, and Rogers specifically is now there with everyone. Everything that's around Toronto, it's part of their thing. Now, one thing that happens, this doesn't take effect till the middle of next year, but Bell actually got to keep media content rights to both the Leaf and the Raptors for the next 20 years. Wow. That's part of the deal.
Wow.
So, because they broadcast the games, Bell and TSN that's where you watch the games. So you'll still be able to watch Leaf games on TSN for the next 20 years at least. So it's a crazy thing to think about, but yeah, the possibility is there. That's always been the hurdle, has been that indemnification thing and teams vetoing having another team anywhere remotely close to them. So now the players involved with potentially adding a team, they could just say, don't worry about it.
Right. We'll waive it.
Yeah. Something I just want to mention really quick, the Dallas Card Show, which takes place in Dallas, obviously, because it's a Dallas Card Show. They are branching out. They're going to have a card show in Chicago called the Dallas Card Show. Was it Dallas Card Show in Chicago or Chicago Edition or something like that?
Well, Sal, you said Dallas Card Show, obviously in Dallas. Not really, because now there'll be the Dallas Card Show in Chicago.
Which is kind of funny because, well, we had a Chicago Sports Spectacular in Detroit, but they called it the Detroit Sports Spectacular. So that kind of made sense because it had at least a unique enough name. But you had like the Sport Card Expo Toronto, Sport Card Expo Montreal, Sport Card Expo. You could do that anywhere. Just add the name of the city, but Sport Card Expo is the brand. Just kind of like the National is a brand, right? Or like Wizard World used to be a brand, or Comic-Con is a brand, or C2E2 or whatever, right? Anyways, just thought that was interesting. So the Dallas Card Show is going to be in Chicago, technically in the suburb of Schaumburg, October 11th to 13th. They're going to have a bunch of autograph signers. It's a big 3-day show. Always interesting when another big show happens. Of course, I mean, maybe I should check that out because then I could kind of do what Clemente did and see, like, oh, what's this show going to be like? I mean, because this is right in my backyard. This is also happening 5, 6 weeks before the Chicago Sports Spectacular towards the end of November, which is like a really big show. I mean, you guys have all been to the November show in Chicago, and it's a big show. And I don't know if this show will actually steal any thunder from this sports spectacular. I feel like people are going to go to either the sports spectacular or they would go to both the Dallas show and the sports spectacular.
Well, I think they'll probably go to both because it seems like the appetite for shows is insatiable. We're at that point in the hobby where I think until we're not, but at this moment in time, and if regional shows are going to go on the road like Fanatics wants to do, well, then it's going to be then every city will have a dozen shows because, you know, why would the Dallas Card Show people not go to New York or not go to, Washington D.C. or whatever? I mean, you go to wherever there's already a market, and those markets already have a big regional show, so they're going to cannibalize each other at some point, and so we'll see what happens. But you should probably go to it, Sal, just to walk around and see what it's like and how busy it is. And look, depending on the signers, you'll get a crowd because I think and the Dallas Card Show is a brand. People have actually traveled to Dallas for this show. It's a destination show, just like the one in New York is, and the one in Chantilly is, and Chicago. I mean, these are all places that people travel to from if they drive or people fly in now. And so I'd be curious to see, what it's like. The Detroit one you mentioned was a big success, I heard. So that's a sign that, that people want to go to shows. That's all.
Well, the Detroit one was successful enough that they're going to do another one next year. So,
Right, exactly.
if they try it and it works out, they do it again. Yeah, I should check that out, especially since it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I could totally slide in on like a Friday and go check it out. I just don't want to spend a lot of money because I'm going to be going to the expo in November. So,
Just looking.
yeah, we always say we're just looking. We're always just looking, and we'll always be 5 minutes, right? We know both of those things are false, right?
Yes.
But also, depending on like if there's not a lot of hockey signers and there's not a lot of hockey stuff because dealers have less incentive to bring it. I mean, I remember one show I did really good at. It was just a 1-day card show, but they had like 2 or 3 former Blackhawks signing at this like 1-day show. They had like Steve Larmer, Dale Talon, and Andrew Shaw. I brought like some of my more unique hockey stuff and it sold. And people are like, oh, cool, you have hockey, right? Because they were there to get hockey autographs. So we'll see. Let's talk about the 201 thing. We're at show number 201. And as Clemente pointed out, 201 is like that first Young Gun and Upper Deck Series 1. I don't know if it's as big a deal as Topps card number 1 when they always talk about their baseball set. Like, what should card number 1 be? And they always put that out on social media. And every year I always snarkily reply, a checklist. But they never, ever take me up on that, right? But I don't think card number 201 in Young Guns is special anymore because it's a leftover rookie from the previous year. It's not like 15-16 when it was like Connor McDavid or 05-06 when it was like Sidney Crosby. And it's like the very best rookie from that year is card number 201. But I thought this was a fun exercise and it lets us talk about something retro. So I guess we each picked 3 Young Guns. I kind of struggled with this, but yeah, let's see what we come up with.
I should point out, you make a good point about the Young Guns. The 201 doesn't mean much anymore. I think the last one that was noteworthy was the 2021 Lafreniere.
Yeah.
Because they put him in that set even though he hadn't played. He hadn't played a game yet, but whatever. That was a special pandemic circumstance. But look,
see, I don't agree with you guys when you're saying that.
Well, okay. Well, we'll give you a chance. What I'm saying is, when you think Young Guns, you think 3 really popular ones and 3 very expensive ones. You think Crosby, McDavid, Ovechkin. That's what you think about. And then I feel like it's rife for whatever other ones you like. Like my favorite one I'll tell you is the 1991 Sergei Fedorov Young Guns, which is the first version of Young Guns that were ever invented, ever created by Upper Deck. And it's not worth a whole lot, but I think the design's great. And that first Young Guns logo, it screams 90s, but I think it's phenomenal. And I'm surprised they had never really brought it back. It would have been really great to bring back for an anniversary or something, but I guess it was too loud for Upper Deck. That's my favorite Young Guns card.
I mean, in 10-11, they did a whole parallel set of the 2010-11 Upper Deck hockey set, and they basically used that design, and they reused that Young Guns design as well.
Right, but it was a parallel set. It wasn't like the Young Guns of that year. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, and
Yeah.
they've Upper Deck has revisited the 90-91 design and like draft pick cards and stuff like that. But yeah, I know what you mean.
And Young Guns is not like Rated Rookie, where Rated Rookie's logo has not changed for Donruss at all. It's always been the
Right.
same. Young Guns looks different almost year to year. It's just the name more than the logo.
So the first one you're tossing out there is Sergei Fedorov.
I'm tossing out Sergei Fedorov. I know that means that nothing since then has been good. That's not true. I have other ones I like, but
Oh yeah, okay.
I feel like that's old school, it's nostalgic. Fedorov was an amazing player. It's a great card. The colors are amazing. And it's funny, Upper Deck, I don't think they knew they were onto something, because then they discontinued Young Guns and they came back a while back. They came back years later. It wasn't like they started and they kept doing it every year, because they were also regular rookies in that set that were not Young Guns.
They did do it in 91, 92, 92, 93. And then there were certain years where they didn't do it. And that's where it gets a little confusing, because Upper Deck had star rookies, which they usually would put in the first series, and then Young Guns, which they would put in the second series. But then also muddying the waters, they would also do World Junior Championship cards, or they would do Program of Excellence cards, like in the late 90s. So there wasn't always Young Guns in every single set. That's why it's confusing when Upper Deck says home of the Young Guns since 1991, but it's like, yeah, but not 93, 94 or 97, 98 or whatever year, you know what I mean? Or they'll say like, it's the 30th anniversary. And then somebody's like, wait, 35th anniversary? So I was like, well, no, because they didn't do it this year. They didn't do it this year. You know what I mean? So it gets a little confusing. Like, I'd say like, oh yeah, my favorite Young Gun is the Ed Belfour rookie card. And I go, oh wait, no, that was a star rookie and not a Young Gun, right? And then I go, oh no, it's the Doug Waite where he's up to his ankles in water on the beach. Oh wait, nope. That's also a star rookie, right? So when I ever think about like Young Guns designs that I like or cards that I like, and I guess I'll go next because I just have one right here. I'll just mention it. And then Tim, you could tell us one. But looking through my old cards, one Young Gun that I always liked, I liked the 91-92 Nicholas Lidstrom Young Guns rookie card, number 587. Now, Lidstrom has two rookie cards in that set. He also appears in Series 1 in the Canada Cup subset. So he's got a card with Team Sweden in Series 1. He's got a card with the Red Wings in Series 2. I love the Young Guns logo for 91-92. It's like this angular where it says Young Guns and it gets bigger. It's kind of like distorted text that's like kind of triangular shaped, and then there's like a flying puck that's kind of like flying through the logo. And then the photo itself, it's got this great shot of Lidstrom like following through on a shot. Like he looks like he's shooting the puck not at you, but like he's facing the camera, he's shooting the puck. And it's just a really good dynamic action shot of a future Hall of Fame player, one of the greatest defensemen ever. I mean, I'm not a Red Wings fan, but I'm a hockey fan and great player. It was cool to see him have a Young Gun, because I remember he played in the Canada Cup and I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be good. He's really good for Sweden. And then like a month later, he's playing with Detroit and it's like, oh, cool. He's got a rookie card now. Oh, now he's got another rookie card that's, updated that shows him with Detroit. So that was one that I picked.
It's a good one.
Thank you.
I like the Fedorov choice too. That's a good one.
It is.
So where I disagree is when you say that number 201 isn't important anymore, because with the exception of 1 year, going back to 2015 forward, it's been McDavid, Matthews, Nico Hischier, Rasmus Dahlin, Jack Hughes, Alexei Lafreniere, Then it was Cole Caulfield, then Matt Boldy. Only 23-24 had Matt Coronado. So that's the first year in quite a few years where it hasn't been a very high profile and potential star player popped in there, because obviously they saved who for the name we are not allowed to mention anymore because we mention it too much. They saved him for Series 2. But here's the thing. When we were mentioned that we were going to do this, I kind of took this literally as to what my favorite number 201 card was.
Okay.
So those were my picks. That was my criteria: is A, it had to be a young gun, and B, it had to be card number 201.
Okay.
And so that's kind of only been a thing-ish since 2000, 2001. Because prior to that, card number 201 in the set was, for the most part, just a regular card.
Right.
The year before that was Keith Primo. The year before that was Sergei Gonchar. Prior to that was Tony Twist. So it was just regular player in the set. But then they started going forward. And here's the funny thing. From 2000 all the way up to about, I would say, 2014, 15, there were 9, I believe, possibly 10 players featured were Ducks players. Now, why is that? Because they did them alphabetically by team. So Anaheim came first. So it was the Ducks player a lot until they decided to make it Connor McDavid. The exception in the middle of that would be my low-hanging fruit of my favorite young gun, which is the Crosby Young Gun 0506. That was the young gun that kind of broke the mold for young guns. So it's hard to not throw that up there, simply because of the fact that it became so iconic. Now, obviously, it's a high dollar card, and I wasn't really using that as a criteria. It was more of a, well, I have to pick a homer player, and Brian Rust doesn't have a card. So I had to go with somebody, and Crosby was my fallback. But yeah, I mean, it's an iconic card. It's a great photo. It's kind of like Crosby, like deer in headlights looking sort of on the picture. But, and they've recycled that image, not the image, but they've recycled that design a few times just because of the fact that it's so. And that was a good rookie class too. I mean, a lot of really good rookie cards came out of that. But that's my first one that I would pick.
All
It's
right.
my favorite. I will trust me. The other two aren't as high dollar as that one.
I like your choice, obviously, and I like that. I think we stand corrected. Those are that list of players is pretty exceptional. But the other thing too is that when they put the set together, there's a lot of built-in possibilities. A lot of those rookies can go bust. I mean, that's
Right.
the other thing too. So but those names are pretty good.
Yeah, and if you look at Alexei, I mean, his first year, everybody was like,
Right, exactly.
Like, you got to give him time. Rookies in the NHL need to cook.
Exactly. Well, I will say, my runner-up, my second choice one is an odd one, but I do like this one because of the player more than the actual card itself. But Wayne Gretzky does not have a Young Guns card because he was a rookie in 79, 80. But 0405 Upper Deck did make a Wayne Gretzky Young Guns card, and he's in the Oilers uniform, and he's skating away, and he looks very young, and it's kind of like a lost rookie if you think about it that way. But that was the year that the lockout year, and that one's one of my favorite as well. But Wayne Gretzky Young Guns card, 0405 number 183. So if anyone asks you, does Wayne Gretzky have a Young Guns card? Technically, yes.
Tim, thoughts?
I mean, it's another good pick, and it kind of leads to my second one. If you want me to go with that.
Go for it.
My second one comes from that same exact set.
Mm.
And again, since I took the 201 thing literally, my second choice is the Mike Keenan Young Gun from the 0405 Upper Deck set. If you have the card, great. If you've seen the card, it's just a unassuming photo of Keenan assumably standing on the bench because he's wearing his typical suit that he's got on most of the time when you see him.
He looks very upset.
And again, typical facial expression for Mike Keenan.
He looks disappointed. Looks disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not upset. He's just disappointed.
Right.
But, not many coaches can say they have a young gun card. Well, modern guys can because they've made them since then. But, yeah, I mean, it's kind of off the wall. But, again, since I was sticking literally to number 201s, it was either I went with the Mike Keenan or it was a toss-up between Garrett Burnett or Shane O'Brien. So I went with the Mike Keenan instead.
See, I didn't pick the Mike Keenan, but now I kind of wish I did. I obviously have talked a million times about 90-91 Pro Set and how Mike Keenan did not have a card in 90-91 Pro Set and how that really annoyed the hell out of me as a kid. I'm like 16 years old and I'm like going through and like every single coach except Mike Keenan has a card. And, even though I kind of had, all sports fans have like a love-hate relationship with their coach, depending on who the coach is, what the sport is, whatever. I was really annoyed that he didn't have a card in that. And then it's like finally like years later, he has a card.
By the way, I'm sorry, Sal.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I don't have the checklist for that, but did they make that card intentionally because he doesn't have a Pro Set one? Or is that not the backstory here? Because it just seems odd that Mike Keenan has a Young Guns card.
The backstory is that was the lockout year, so they made a lot of cards of hockey people. Like, I'll talk about one of them next, but like just hockey people who you wouldn't think would get a hockey card. Like, for instance, Lord Stanley. He's not who I picked as a young gun, although that would have been a really good one.
Right.
It's not actually Lord Stanley's first hockey card either. Actually, I just pulled up Mike Keenan's checklist. So, I mean, he had like some team issue cards with the Flyers and he had team issue cards with the Blackhawks. And I remember collecting those. But then after that, then his first non-team issued card is this Young Guns card, right? And then he had a card in 06-07 Parkhurst. And he's also in 04-05 Ultimate Collection. But no, it wasn't like they made it because he didn't have a Pro Set card. Although it could have been. I think Upper Deck was looking for people who did not have cards because like they made a card of Dennis Brodeur, who was Martin Brodeur's father, but he was also a Canadian Olympic goaltender and a very famous sports photographer, hockey photographer, right? So like making a card of him to me is like, oh, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that, like, oh, he's cool, right? Or they made like a card of like Cami Granato. And that's like, I mean, is it her rookie card? I don't know. She had a lot of classic cards in the 90s, right? But American hockey legend, member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. I know, and that isn't even the one I want to talk about. But yeah, so that's the reason why. They were going with odd picks or just people who did not have cards. I really did struggle with this though. Like, just trying to think of people like Young Guns. Cause like, I didn't want to go like, oh, I like this card because it's my favorite player. Or I like this card because it's worth money. When you pick the three most valuable ones, it's easy. Or just like, I like this guy on the Blackhawks, this guy on the Blackhawks, right? It's too easy. So my second pick, also from 04-05, very great hockey play-by-play announcer Gary Thorne has a Young Gun. See, the reason why I like Gary Thorne, I used to watch New Jersey Devil games. He was the voice of the Devils. I also used to watch Chicago White Sox games. He was the voice of the White Sox. I think only for a season or two, but still, I watched a lot of White Sox that year. So in like my mind, that was like the first play-by-play announcer when I watched the White Sox, right? So, and like I said, I used to watch a lot of Devils games because Sports Channel would show us Devils games in Chicago, and Islanders games and Kings games and Blackhawk games, but only every other one because we didn't get home games. So yeah, Gary Thorne, very well-respected, longtime hockey play-by-play announcer, has a card in 04-05 Upper Deck as a Young Gun. So that's one of my picks.
It's a good pick.
It's a good pick.
I forgot he had that Young Gun. The only Gary Thorne hockey card I have is the auto from the Crown Royal set.
Nice.
That Panini put out.
Was that the Voices of the Game set?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It's a great set.
That was an example of like Panini getting it right. Like just lights out getting it right. Panini did some good stuff. We need to do a retrospective episode because we're looking back on like 10 years since the demise of Panini hockey. So we should do a show about that one day. Fans, if you're listening, let us know. Should we do a 10-year retrospective of Panini and its 4 years back in the hockey from 10-11 to 13-14? Let us know.
Yes, you should. I heard them. They said it. They said it.
All right, third young gun. Clemente, we're back to you.
Quickly, I'll just say my third favorite is 15-16 Jack Eichel. It's just kind of a fun card and looks like he's celebrating a goal. And for a while there, it was like when it first came out, it was much hyped, I remember, and the prices were going crazy for it. But that's my third. On the podium, that's the bronze medal for me.
It's a nice card. It's a nice photo. I agree.
It tanked hard, though.
It did.
Really did.
It did. Tell me about it.
When he went to Vegas, I thought it was going to get a resurgence, and it really didn't too much. A little bit after they won the cup, but
you know what it was? He had to get that Buffalo Sabres stench off of him, and he still hasn't been able to do that. So
yeah.
Well, and also on the Sabres, he was the guy. And on this Vegas team,
he's one of the guys.
One of the guys. Like, he's one of their best players, but I mean, they have other really good players, so he's not carrying the team. He's part of the team, one of the best players on the team, but he's not like head and shoulders better.
Well, I think a lot of people had a hard time thinking he was going to be able to even come back from that injury and that surgery that he had too. So
great that he did, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Tim, you got another 201 for us?
Speaking of players that don't really get any respect. So, again, without filling the list full of the Devontae Smith-Pellys or the Carl Soderbergs of the world being number 201.
And actually, that's what? Is that 10-11?
Which one? Carl Soderberg?
Soderberg.
Soderberg was 13-14.
I like that Young Guns design. I mean, it just says Young Guns at the bottom of the card in big silver letters. But yeah, I like that design. But when I looked through it, I didn't really find one that stood out to me. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah. Well, since I wasn't heading that direction and I couldn't stomach picking a Thrasher with Zach Bogosian, I went with Johnny Pajamas. The 2009-10 Upper Deck, number 201, was John Tavares. I feel like in all the years of watching hockey, especially in more modern years, the guy doesn't get the respect he deserves, I don't think. Islander fans hate him because they call him a traitor. And he meant a lot to that team for a long period of time. But the fact in the way he left and went to Toronto kind of left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. So
yeah.
So I get that. I get it. But he doesn't have to be the best player now. He doesn't have to be the leader of the team necessarily, even though he wore the captaincy since he's been there. This year they gave it away, but that's besides the point because he's getting up there in age. Is he a Hall of Famer? I don't know. I just think it's a cool card of a player, and you won't normally hear me pick an Islander for anything. But in this case, I think that's a good one. A good 201 at least.
It's funny because I got a John Tavares Young Gun maybe 2 months back. I remember when he was on the Islanders, it was like, I want to say it was like an $80 card. Now, my prices could be off. All I know is that when he went to Toronto, then all of a sudden the card skyrocketed in value because he's on the Maple Leafs. He's the captains of the Maple Leafs. And now, like, everybody wants his card. Now I was competing with Maple Leaf collectors on eBay. So I'm thinking, oh, this card's like an $80 card. And this was back when maybe I didn't have as much disposable income. But I was like kicking myself for not getting the card when I had the chance. Because I remember I made a trade with somebody and I traded a card that was like comparable in value. And the guy said, well, I got a Stamkos rookie or I got a Tavares rookie. I'd be willing to trade you one of those for the card that you're trading me. And I said, I'll take the Stamkos because at the time, I think that one was maybe worth just a little more, like maybe not, but it was the player that I liked better. And I was always thinking, well, Tavares, he plays on the Islanders. I'll just get that whenever. But I was able to find one in Chicago for like $40 $40, $50. I mean, it wasn't a lot. So, but yeah, that was a card that I've wanted for a long time, and I finally got one. So that is a good card.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's fluctuated, like you said, it's fluctuated in value, kind of up and down.
Yeah.
From I think as low as like a $50 card up to as much as a couple $100 card at one point or another. But
yeah, because I think I bought that one for 40 and like a Brent Burns Young Gun for like 30, and then I think I bought like one other card. And I remember just like buying like 3 Young Guns off this guy for like $90 or something, and they were all like named players, but I can't remember who the third one was. But yeah, it's an interesting card. For my third Young Gun, I thought, like I said, I had a hard time with this exercise. I really did, because a lot of my favorite rookie cards from the 90s were just not Young Guns. And even like players who had Young Guns like Teemu Selanne, and I looked at that, I go, well, that's a nice card. He's shooting the puck. It's a nice design, but it's not his rookie card. It's a Young Gun, but not a rookie card. And it's not one that I'm like crazy about. You know what I mean? It's just a Teemu Selanne card, but it's basically a base card. Then I thought, like, okay, Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane, they had Young Guns, and I wanted those cards back in the day. And I actually did build an entire 07, 08 set. I think that's the last year I actually got a complete set of Young Guns, all the Series 1, all the Series 2. I mean, you guys are going to probably not like this pick, but I gotta do it.
I think I know what it is, but go ahead.
23-24, card number 451, Connor Bedard.
Who?
No, you disappointed me. I thought you were going to pick Gritty.
Yeah, I like Gritty, and I like that card, but no, and here's the reason why. It's not because it's a valuable card. It's because this is probably the closest I've followed one card. And this whole time that this card has been out, I've actually wanted this card. Just like I wanted a Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves Young Guns, right? Like, I wanted those cards, but I was able to buy them because I was only competing with other Blackhawk collectors and hockey card collectors.
This one's elusive. This was a very elusive because of everybody was interested in it.
This one was so elusive because everybody wanted this card. And here's the other thing too. I could have had this card 10 times over. Like at that March Chicago Sports Spectacular, I had a few people offer to sell me one. I declined. Other dealers were selling it. Of course, I could have bought it from another dealer. But like, people came to my table, they had this card. They're like, I will sell it to you for this much. I thought about it and I declined because I saw what was going on. The card kept going down, going down, going down, going down. I eventually got one for the price that I thought was fair. Bought it at a show. I've told this story before, so I don't really need to tell it again. But I bought it for the price that I wanted. But like, I don't think I've scrutinized one card harder than this card. And it is of a player that I wanted this card of, and of a team that I collect. I'm not going to be a Connor Bedard super collector, but you know what? If I get one of his cards, I toss it aside. In fact, in my box of credentials that I'll talk about in a little bit, I did get an insert card of his, and I'm going to keep that. I have a book of Bedard cards that I keep now. So yeah, that's my third pick, just because it's a card that I scrutinized. It's a card that I wanted. I really closely watched this card. Heck, I wrote an article about it for the Hockey News that was like close to 1,000 words, right? So, I mean, I've been all in on this card from every angle, not just as a Blackhawk fan, not just as a collector, not just as a guy who deals, not just as a guy who podcasts, but all of the above.
No, I agree. In terms of 20 years from now, people will still be talking about this card, because even if he has a career that doesn't live up to Hall of Fame, though I think he will, but if he doesn't, it's still a moment in time, just like Eric Lindros's scorecard was. It's iconic in that in the moment it was a big thing, a big deal. And so no, it's a good pick. I mean, it's the obvious one, but it makes sense.
I mean, remember, we did a whole episode just about that card.
We did a whole season of podcasts on. No, but yeah, but you're right.
Yeah,
we did a whole,
you're right.
No, but we did. But you're right. That we did a whole episode, and we did a whole everything, because it was like a big deal, and it probably still is a big deal.
Yeah, it is, and it should be interesting with the season coming up, and with, people now predicting that he's going to have a good season, and what kind of season is he going to have, and is he going to be 40 goal scorer, 50 goal scorer, whatever. So yeah, I mean, that's going to only rekindle the hype for his cards.
Yeah, particularly that one.
All right, guys, ready to talk credentials, or did you have anything else you wanted to say about the young guns?
I'm really surprised nobody picked Tomas Divashek from 0102 as their favorite one. But of course, I'm the only one that followed the rules, so, whatever. Anyway, move on. Credentials, let's go.
Yes, what's your favorite card number 201 in any set ever, right? Yeah, I don't know. Okay, 23-24 Upper Deck Credentials. So here's just the background information about this set. It debuted at around $150 a box. Now it's selling for about $130 per box. You get 8 packs per box. You get 6 cards per pack. Now, from the sell sheet, it says every box contains 1 base set parallel, 2 speed of the game cards, 4 acetate ticket access, acetate ticket debut, ticket access, 1997 season ticket retro acetate color and or 1997 season ticket retro acetate rookie cards, 4 debut ticket access cards, and 8 who's best, who's next, and or highly anticipated cards. What?
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, I'm as confused as everybody else is, right? Like, notice it doesn't say 1 autograph in there. And you know my opinion. If it's over $100, I expect an autograph. Okay, now I understand that some of these debut acetate tickets are autograph cards, but like, I want my 1 auto per box, and I'm not getting it here. And I didn't get it here. Oh, and let me just give the rundown of the makeup of the set. 200 card set. Cards 1 through 100 are the base set. 101 through 200 are the debut ticket access rookie cards, and there's different numbers of serial numbering. So cards 101 through 155 are serial numbered out of 999. 156 through 180 are serial numbered out of 799. 181 through 195 are serial numbered out of 599. So it gets harder as we go along. And then 196 through 200 are serial numbered out of 399. So 196, I mean, you could probably guess who these are. 196, Luke Hughes. 197, Leo Carlson. 198, Connor Bedard, haha, because he's number 98. Number 199, Logan Cooley. Number 200, Adam Fantilli. So those last 5 cards are the hardest cards to get in the set. There's a bunch of parallels, which I'll talk briefly about later, and tons of insert sets, which we'll also talk about. But off the top of my head, I like this year's credential set, even though I don't know if we really need 100 rookie cards. But, okay, it's thorough. But I like the base card design. I like some of the insert designs, and I'll talk about those a little later. But guys, have you had a chance to look at credentials, and what are your thoughts?
I had a chance to look at them, and it sounds like they went really heavy on the 90s retro look here.
Yes, and that's what I love about it. They knocked it out of the park. Hate to use a baseball metaphor. They knocked it out of the rink with this one, right? I would describe it as like Zubaz Pants meets Windows 95. That's the aesthetic that they went with here.
I was thinking more like Designer Trapper Keeper meets Saved by the Bell intro music, but yes, same thing.
Wow.
Lisa Frank, Trapper Keeper, and Saved by the Bell. All of those apply.
I can't even come up with one to compete with both of those analogies, so just continue,
Wait,
sir.
You're speechless?
I got nothing. I can't compete with that.
So I will say, because of that 90s look, it makes me more into it. And I like the idea they look like ticket stubs as opposed to, like, I remember early on, they look like photo IDs. I wasn't into that, but I like the idea that they look like stubs, and the autograph ones look really great, even though they're probably really hard to pull. They look good. I have to give them credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, the box itself, when I got the box, I go, okay, I'm going to like this, because the box had this kind of cool, like, 90s color scheme with, like, the bright saturated colors, but it had that very kind of, like, surf shop look.
It's like neon. It's like neon, right? It's like a neon box, right?
Yeah, like neon colors, but
Yeah.
there is a insert set called Rad Pads, and it's a goalie insert set, and it's die cut, and it uses kind of like a similar design pattern from like the box. So it has like those bright colors, again, very 90s. I mean, as far as like the insert sets. There's 110 different insert sets. I'm not going to read through them all. A lot of them are just 1997 season ticket acetate plus autograph and rookie versions of that. Debut ticket access acetate. Now there's 1991 Provision. So if you remember those Provision baseball cards from the 90s, well, they reiterated that design here with hockey. So the 1991 Provision features players from the 90s. Even though it's the 1991 design, it's got Yager, it's got Cam Neely, it's got Eric Lindros, and I forgot who the fourth one is, but that's okay.
Luc Robitaille.
Who is it?
Luc Robitaille.
Luc Robitaille, yes. It's like a playing card, and it says Lucky Luke, right?
Yeah.
And then there also do provisions of like the modern players, and I like the one of Connor Bedard because it's Connor Bedard, and he's like surrounded by like flying lottery balls, like the lottery draft balls, and I think that's great because he was the lottery pick. But not all of the inserts. Let me put it to this way, and now here's my big complaint: the cooler the insert, the harder it is to pull. Because I looked at those rad pads, which are die cut, and I go, oh, those are cool. But they're one in every 133 packs. I look at the Provisions. The 1991 Provisions are one in every 400 packs, and the regular Provisions are one in every 200 packs. There's some other ones that I haven't even seen pictures of yet, so I don't know what they look like. I got one called Fans at Heart, which is a die cut, and it looks like a Valentine. It's not the one that I would have wanted, but it's die cut, and it's one in every 250 packs. And I'm like, well, all right, that's kind of neat. I mean, not that it's always about like, I didn't pull the very best card in this set. Like, oh, I didn't get a Connor Bedard. Well, technically I did. I got like an insert card. They did a set called Highly Anticipated. And I like the designs of these because they're very 90s looking. And you get these, like, I think I got 4 of them. So you get one in every other pack. And then they got ones called Who's Best and Who's Next. And these they're so simple. They almost look like early to mid 90s Fleer inserts, like Fleer Ultra. Like, couldn't you see these like being in Fleer Ultra? Because they're just like so simple, like cutout player, colorful background. I don't know. I thought these were okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of the base card design. By the way, there's a bunch of parallels because deck gonna deck. You got your yellow, red, orange, blue, pink, green, purple, gold, and black, which are one of one. And then the debut ticket access horizontal variations, which are like the tickets, but they're sideways. And then they also have all those color variations as well. So anyway, yeah, I'm definitely going to pick up a base set. I don't think I'm going to track down all the rookies, especially with the Bedard being numbered out of 399. But then again, I think all things being equal, would they take the debut ticket access of Bedard or a young gun? And we already know this, that, you could have a card that's numbered out of 500 or 400. Well, maybe with Bedard, they would go with that. But, they just so go after the young gun. Card could be numbered out of 299 but it's not the young gun.
No, I agree. I think you want to make a rookie card undesirable. Just slap a number on it, like a out of whatever, because hockey collectors will not run towards it.
Not at all.
The young guns will be the one. Yeah, the young guns will be the one that is most sought after, even though there's like 50,000 of them graded or whatever. It doesn't matter. But out of 299, it's like, no.
Yeah, there's 300 of them out there. It's not that rare.
Right.
Tell me in the box you opened, you got a Day with the Pup card.
No, what is that? I was trying to find a picture of one. There weren't any on Trading Card DB yet.
Oh, yeah. So instead of Day with the Cup, it's Day with the Pup, and they're die cut, like shaped like a dog bone, and it's a player with their dog.
Nice, I like it.
Or a dog. I guess I don't know that it's their dog. It's a dog.
See, I would go after that. That sounds like fun. That's the thing. Like, I guess if like you get a card of a player with the dog in every pack, you're like, well, this is stupid, right? And I get that like the die cut ones cost a little bit more, and the Provision cards are so steeped and saturated in nostalgia that people are going to buy those. And I guess if it's too easy to find, then they don't have any value. And if it's too hard to find, well, I feel like a lot of their cool inserts are always the hard ones to find, like 16-bit, the ones that look like the video game renderings from what was that set? Tim, bail me out here. What set has those video game cards?
Those came from Allure.
Thank you, Allure. Oh, God.
So many sets, so little time.
Yeah. So anyway, so 16-bit in Allure or whatever, like those look great, but they're hard as heck to find. Oh, and speaking of Allure, I remember I said, oh, if I got a doubloons card, I would be like totally disappointed. And you said, well, those are a case hit. And actually, I saw what one looked like, and I go, okay, no, those are pretty cool. Those look like those Fleer gold cards from like 95, 96, where like the whole background is gold foil and then the player is like superimposed over it, and I go, okay, that's actually pretty cool. So I take that back. The doubloons inserts, yeah, those are neat. But now I'm talking about Allure and not credentials. But I take back what I said about an Allure insert set. It's actually nice.
Well, as fun as they are, the Day with the Pups are still 1 out of 167, so they're tough.
Yeah. So some of the other insert sets here, besides Day with the Pup, Fans at Heart, highly anticipated. Live Tonight, which look like concert posters. They're kind of cool. They kind of have like that 70s aesthetic, kind of like that Yellow Submarine Beatles aesthetic with like the bright colors and stuff. Main Stage Signatures, Provision, Rad Pads, which I talked about, have that 1990s surf aesthetic. They're die cut. Retro Ticket, Access Autographs. Speed of the Game, which I got a couple of them and not super enamored with them. They almost look like MVP inserts. Who's Best, Who's Next, which are okay. Yeah, Speed of the Game are like sideways cards. They're all right. I mean, they're all foily and stuff, but I don't look at this and go, oh man, this is awesome. I look at this and I go, this could have been in another set. Like I said, it feels like it could be an MVP or something else, which is okay. I mean, you can have an insert design that looks like another set. Yeah, I don't know. I think my other problem with this is with all the different, like I got 4 different rookie cards, debut, ticket, access rookie cards. But like only one of them is like the standard version. I got Cole Gutman of the Blackhawks, but then I got a yellow version, I got an orange version, and then I got a sideways, is this maybe the sideways blue version? If you got 4 rookie cards or maybe 3 and one was a parallel, okay, cool. But I feel like with 200 rookie cards and you only really get 1 standard rookie card per box. So this is a very tough build.
Yeah. I don't know that it's any more set that people try to put together. Honestly.
Right.
And since they've revamped it and now it's just chocked full of inserts and 90s fun, as you guys are calling it. I'm not saying they're going to throw the base cards in the trash, but this doesn't seem to be a set to put together the base part of really much anymore. But credentials, it is what it is. It's a ticket themed design. It's always been a ticket themed sort of design. It harkens to Panini's Contenders, which was always the same. The same concept. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of credentials. I have skipped credentials every year. I actually almost bought credentials at the last Chicago show that I went to because there was a table that had the last 2 years worth, which would really have been just 1 year because they packed 2 years into one box. I want to say it was $40 per box, but even at $40 I was like, still doesn't do it for me. Because I mean, you kind of knew what you were going to get in there, so it's like you want to open up the box knowing that you're already getting what's in there. Now I will say I do like the Provision cards. I've always liked the Provision, regardless of what version they put out or rendition of it in whatever product they've thrown it out in. I like the Yager one. Have you seen that one before?
Yeah, although, he's wearing the wrong jersey. He's wearing the Robo Penguin and he's got the Captain C on his sweater. but he's standing between two Stanley Cups. That wasn't the jersey that he wore when he won those Stanley Cups, but whatever.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like historically inaccurate. Like it says 1991, but Lindros wasn't in the league in 1991. But okay, that's fine. The design is from 91, but it's 90s players.
If you want to take it further, I think at that point where they wore those jerseys, Yager didn't have quite that haircut either. If you look on that card. But anyway, that's besides the point. I don't know. The retro ticket access with the weird retro superimposed over all the pastel colors and stuff. I saw those. Am I over the 90s design now? They've just brought it back and then shoved it down our throat and overdid it.
They so overdid it in this set that I'm like, are they never going to do 90s stuff ever in any set going forward? Because I don't know what's left now. Like, I know that maybe we're the key demographic and we're nostalgic for the 90s, but it's overdone at this point.
Yeah, but see, my problem is that the stuff that I like is always the hardest to find, right? Like, I go, oh, I like those inserts, but they're hard to find. And so I never get them.
And that's the way they get you, because they throw them all on the sell sheet and they're like, hey, look,
but you never pull
here, and this is here, and this is here. Oh, by the way, look at the fine print. This one right here is 1 out of 200 packs, and this one's 1 out of 160, and this one's 1 out of 2,287.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, you may never pull them, and if you are going to get them, you're going to have to buy them secondhand, third party, whatever, and pop on eBay and pay $300 for an 8-bit, 16-bit retro flashback Super Mario Brothers Provision card.
Right.
And nobody wants to do that.
Right, yeah.
Because it's crazy. Look, it has a niche. It's got some fun stuff in it. Whether the chances of getting it are high or not, I think some of this stuff will do well secondhand. I could probably see these box prices dropping.
Even with Connor Bedard in them.
Yeah, the longer
because there's a lot of Bedard in this, if you count all the different variants and parallels and sideways parallels and 97 retro parallel, whatever, and the insert sets. I mean, there's a lot of Bedard in this box, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing now like 30 to 60 different Bedard cards in almost every set that comes out, if not more, considering all the parallels and everything else. So I don't know. 90s overload, Bedard overload. Are we done with that? I like 90s as much as everybody else, but it's like there's only so much you can take before it's like, okay, now what do we do? Are we going to jump onto the 2000s overload next? What would that even be? Do we have iconic designs and crazy over-the-top things to harken back to, or did the 2000s just get subdued and everybody was angry and listened to Limp Bizkit? I don't know.
No, because extended series is always a dump for like early 2000s designs, right? Like every time an Upper Deck extended series comes out, they're like throwing in stuff from like 99, 2000, 2000, 2001 up to like 05, 06, 06, 07. You know, where you go, oh, UD3 and holographic and honor roll and whatever, right? Like they're always like doing like these old, like early 2000s designs in like extended
the other
series.
issue too is Upper Deck has a limited scope. They can only go 30 years because all the iconic designs that we're thinking of are tops. So they can't do those, or they can't make variations of those. Otherwise, they'll get into trouble. So you're right. They either do early to mid 90s or early 2000s because that's all they have to work with. And so, if there was any way to do something more vintage looking, even if it wasn't anything that harkens back, because these designs don't harken back to any particular design. It's just an era of design. So if they went back and did 60s stuff, but maybe they don't, maybe they think that the demographic isn't interested in that. Who knows? But I do think that at some point the 90s we got to move on. Even, and if we're saying that and we're the core demographic for it, if we're saying that I don't know, what else there is for them.
Right.
When does 2010 become nostalgic?
It's too soon. I guess. I
It's too
guess.
soon? Okay.
Yeah, I don't really feel nostalgic about that. Maybe I'm starting to feel that way about like 05, 06, 06, 07, because that's kind of like when I started
Mm.
collecting again. So now I can look at that and go, oh, yeah, I remember, like those were, I mean, we had short prints, but I still felt like things were a little more attainable back then. Like, I feel like this hobby gets harder and not easier, and that's why I keep pivoting. That's why I go, okay, can't afford any of this.
That's why you're buying Leaf.
Yeah, that's what I mean
Yeah.
by pivoting. Like, I want to buy
Right.
cards, but yeah, not going to spend X amount of dollars on this. So I'm just going to turn my attention. Oh, look at that. That's nice. Ooh, it's only $20. Okay, take that. Like I said before, I like the design. I'm definitely going to get a base set of these credentials cards. I don't think I'm going to put together all the rookie cards. Although I think if I wait long enough, the first 50, 60 of them are going to be pretty easy because they're going to be, numbered out of $9.99 each. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like, is there too much 90s? Maybe. I feel like there's not enough. I feel like there's too much of it, but it's too hard to acquire.
Yeah, it's a good point.
That's kind of like my feeling. I feel like something like this Who's Next insert, why not make this a tough pull? It's not that great of an insert. Like I said, like the less interesting the design, the easier they are to pull. The nicer and neater and more novel the design, the harder they are to pull. I mean, I'll give like another example, and these were kind of hit or miss, but like the 22-23 Skybox Metal had those anime cards where they were like drawn like anime characters. And those were tough pulls. And if they were a little bit easier, I could see wanting to like build a set of them. But because they were so hard to come by, it's just like, you want to spend $50 to $100 a card? Nah, maybe you'd buy your favorite player, but that's about it. I mean, you're not really putting that together because it's so tough. But that's always been my complaint, at least these last few years. So I'm not saying anything new here.
Buy singles.
Yeah.
You hate to say it because on one hand, you're like, oh, breakers are breaking everything and they're the reason why prices are going up and this, that, and the other. Buy singles. Well, if they're the ones breaking everything, you're eventually going to be buying the singles from somebody. They've got to unload the product and they're going to get it from somewhere. So I don't know. It's this weird love-hate symbiotic relationship between everybody in the hobby. Just because Bedard's in there, it's going to have that push a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see this dropping down to $40 anytime soon, but I do see the price coming down. I mean, heck, it's already down around $120.
Right.
Or less, depending on where you get it from.
Right.
Oh, it's one of those products that I kind of forget about every year, credentials. Because by this point, like here, we have this product and we're getting ready for the new season. We've already had MVP come out. Everybody's anticipating what's coming up, and it's like, oh yeah. And the cup came out, and it's
Well,
like,
right.
what?
It comes up at the same time as the cup, which is super expensive, but it comes out also before Opishi Platinum, which people like. So it is kind of this sort of middle child of hockey sets. It's kind of like, I can see people skipping it and actually, like you said, just buying the singles they like on eBay or at stores or whatever shops because
That's why I'm surprised it survived as a product. I didn't realize it was that popular to make it, off the cutting room floor and not be one of those products that was like a full force, which we got 1 year of, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I liked Full Force, but I wanted more out of that too. But, that was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, any last thoughts about this set before we wrap it up?
Buy it, consume.
No, also, we covered a lot in this podcast, so my head's spinning a little bit. I feel like I've sat through a 90-minute lecture. We went over a lot of stuff, and I think a lot of stuff here for people to really take in, so it's good.
Yeah. Well, anyways, folks, please keep giving us that feedback. I know a lot of you've pinged me on Facebook or on X and have said, oh, I've listened to the latest podcast. I really like it. I like this topic, or that was funny, or whatever. So, keep those comments coming. If you have ideas or requests, I know we've had a lot of requests to start doing, retrospectives again, or retrospectives about older sets. We're going to start doing those as well, too. Yeah, we got to definitely look into that. Anyways, thank you for listening to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, please be sure to like and subscribe. If you like to read, you can subscribe to the newsletter at puckjunk.com/newsletter. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so by purchasing a t-shirt at shop.puckjunk.com. And until next time, collect what you like.
For more hockey goodness, follow us on Twitter at PuckJunk.